Hey everybody, Roar the Lions UK, Matthew Turner here alongside Ashley Soden. Ant is going to be joining us in just a second as I can already see that one of my graphics is live on the page and shouldn't be. Hope you're all well, hope you've had a good week going into the weekend strongly. We of course are watching some college football and whatever, but I hope you all are well and come and say hello, get a shout out. Shook in the building, Dan Pask in the building. Ash, you've been playing flag football for charity, how are you doing?
Tired, bit injured. I think I've sprained my finger and I got kicked in the ankle by one of my own players. But it was a fun time. We're relatively back home for it. It was down in Coventry. But yeah, we were playing a flag tournament for the Birmingham Children's Hospital, which is kind of close to my heart since I've had stint there when I broke my leg when I was 2.5. Both my brothers have been there numerous times. Some of the times because of me and trampolines, but that's by the by. But yeah, we came 11th out of 12, which isn't great, but considering we were, to put not too fine points of it, pissing around. So defensive players were playing offense, offensive players were playing defense, and a certain person was play caller for a game and a half. Coming like that ain't too bad. We still won 2 games, including both of which are against our local rivals, against Lincolnshire and Leicestershire. So, we're still the best in the Midlands. But yeah,
Right.
it was a fun little time.
Hey Lisa, hope you're well. And Shook says, look like Matt got a haircut, or as they call it in England, a mop twaddle. I can't say I've ever heard that before. Nakura's in the chat saying, hey guys, I've got Tuesday off work. That is a big W for Nakura. I also have Tuesday off work, so I'm with you as well.
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. I have a plan to do some slow cooking when I wake up. Make the most of it. It's going to be sweet. I've also lost like 7-8 pounds in the last 2 weeks. So
He checks between your sofa cushions.
sorry, that's just me waving you. Ha ha
Sorry.
ha. Yikes. Oh, Jeffrey Simmons downgraded from questionable to doubtful. Well, shit, we better sort that out on our fantasy team. Ash, did you get a haircut too? How can you tell, Grandizer?
Wow, yeah, actually, it did not this Friday, just gone the Friday before, because it's the Flag Awards nights. So yeah, it's not looking the greatest because of obviously running around in the field for 8 hours, but that's what cats were invented for.
Dan says, nice one, Ash, on your flank footy and the weight loss, Matt. Dan, I've got another 3 stone to go, mate. I really need to. Granda said, you lost money, pounds, you lost some kilos. Yes, I lost some kilos. I lost just a shade under 4 kilos. My aim is 3.5 stone in 6 months. And then that will be when I travel to Vegas with my girlfriend. And we will eat like pigs. Got to navigate Christmas with that as well, of course, which is never the best thing to do. Oh, for goodness sake. No, no,
Yeah.
no.
Just announced 45 seconds ago. I just double it. They've fined Branch for that fucking play, not McBride.
Didn't I say live that it's definitely going to be on the defensive player, even though it's the offensive player's fault? That is a joke.
Fuck the league. And then he was fined another 10K. So he's fined $10,128 for that, and then another exact same amount for a separate incident.
Well, I can't comment on the separate incident. If you can just put that below where I've just created the new. Well, actually, it's in whatever. I'll just put that there.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Brent DeWitt says, work? Question mark, laughing face emoji. Yeah, man. So I did a lot of work this week for a European. I did not do a lot of work this week for an American, but I did a lot of work for a European person. So I did a 45-hour week this week. My normal weeks are 37 and a half. So 37, in fact. So I donated 10 hours in my week. All for fuck all as well, which is not ideal. Ant says he's not coming on. You didn't tell me, man! Alright. In which case... we're talking about Maggie Smith now. Yes, she was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. Sadly missed. Anyway, let's get this show on the road, shall we?
Yeah.
Alright, here we go.
Recording in progress.
Welcome to another edition of the ROTL UK podcast, episode 293. It's the Bogeyman. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Ashley Soden. How you doing, man?
Doing good. Bit tired, bit sweaty, but excited to preview what should hopefully be a great game on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I can't wait for it to. It's going to be a very, very interesting one. We're going to break that down. We're going to get into a bit of news first. But before all of that, please don't forget to join us on our Discord channel. I'm going to remember this time to actually put a link in the episode description of the audio pod as well. So if you're listening to this, there should be a link for you, if you're an audio listener, to join us in our Discord channel. Great place to chat with Lions fans all week long. Also in the live chat of YouTube and Twitch right now. We'd love to see you there if you haven't done it already. College Football Podcast is going to be coming up next week, of course, for reviewing everything that's happening right now, including a narrow win by Michigan, including by BYU almost blowing a 21-point lead, and lots of other things that have been happening so far. We've got Notre Dame coming back from 7-0 down to go 20-0 up at the moment. Oklahoma against Auburn. There's some really good games this week, so do be sure to join Ant and Ryan probably Wednesday next week. Please don't forget to like this show and sub to the podcast. You know what to do with that. And also follow Lions Nation Unite. They're really ramping up their content and doing really good work there. And we are Twitch affiliated, YouTube monetized. There's a feedback form down below and a tip jar. If you have any thoughts or if you want to show some love that way, that'd be absolutely great. But let's get on with the show. And first of all, on the top of it, we are not a Tigers podcast, but the Detroit Tigers have made the postseason for the first time in 10 years. Ash, they've won 75% of their games in the last 44. I think they've gone 33-11 in the last 44 games or something insane. What a run from 0.2% chance early in August to finally getting there. It's a great moment for the team. It's a great moment for the city. And it feels like all things are coming up Detroit.
Yeah, well, it was definitely worth staying up till 2:30 our time to watch that final sort of bit happen. I know some people in our Discord are telling me to go to sleep because I had to wake up 4 hours later to go from a tournament, but to watch that moment in history was 100% worth it. And between us two, like, who would have thought that this would happen when me and you were sat there with Tiffany in the stands watching us get not marmalised by the by the Royals, but not playing exactly well. And then look at where we are now. Like, we've beat them last week. It's looking like we're probably going to play them in the wild card. We could really do the double over them and then go far. Like, all you need is just a bit of momentum, and we've definitely got that. That's why people can see on the video bit, my title says shouldn't have let the Tigers get hot, because after one of their players said, "Oh, you don't let us get hot," they've just rode the wave and swept the nation in a way. And internationally, like, we're watching it. I've got friends in Australia and that who were texting me about it, so it's gone worldwide now.
Yeah, the hottest team in sports, and going to be riding that wave hopefully all the way to the World Series. Let's move on to Detroit Lions related news, and there's a lot of roster news to get into this week. First of all, let's get into the injured reserve moves. Derek Barnes, the outside linebacker, has been put on injured reserve. It's meant to be a long-term injury, but not necessarily season ending. It could be season ending. It's not expected to be, but it's one of those where the range of outcomes is quite wide. So let's see what happens on that. Defensive lineman Marcus Davenport is gone probably for the year. That one is verging more on it being almost certain, but there is the door open for him to possibly get back very late on in a run if the Lions do make a run. And in the last 30 minutes, safety Ifatu Melifonwu has also gone on to injured reserve. And Ash, I'll just stop there, especially on the Iffy part, but just on the other two. But for Iffy, this is especially gutting for him because he's already been out for 3 games. If he'd been put on injured reserve, he'd be eligible to return after Monday. Instead, he's kind of hung around for a while. And it's very reminiscent maybe of his rookie season, I think it was, where they were kind of waiting to see. Maybe it was rookie, maybe it was year 2. But there was a time where it was like, I don't know whether he's going to come back or not, so we can't put him on injured reserve. And then they eventually did it in their second season. So, and now he's going to be gone until week 8, at least.
Yeah, it's not exactly great. It's like he obviously said, he's carrying the injury since the preseason. Would have saved us a bit of bother to IR him, but I guess they were just optimistic that his recovery would be a lot sooner. It is, and he's just having a setback. We saw it last year with Manuel Mosley coming off his ACL tear, and it just getting a setback. Sometimes it happens, and it does leave us a bit short though, because obviously with Branch still in, well, I think he's still technically in concussion protocol, but it's looking like he's playing. You've got Kirby, who we all know and know I love, and is a great guy, great free safety. And Brandon Joseph is a good prospect. He could turn to be a good safety, but right now we just don't have that true box safety that could come down, impact the run, do the blitzing like if he did at the end of last season. We've made that role his own. We just don't have that person. And against what looks to be a physical Seahawks team, as we'll get on to, especially with some of their players who've been injured the past couple of weeks, sort of coming back and being okay to play now, would have been nice to have him maybe, but if it means he can get healthy and he can have that impact again later in the season where we can use him as that deployable defensive weapon, get some pressure later in the season and get QBs rushing and win us games, be all worth it, I guess.
Yeah. All right, moving on to the signings as a result of some of those IR moves. And with Iffy moving to IR, there's actually a place available now on the main roster. So let's see what happens with that. There could be some more movement before the game. Because we've got tomorrow to make another move before the main roster is ready to go for the game. So 2 wide receiver moves from practice squad to active roster. Tim Patrick and Alan Robinson are elevated up to the main roster now permanently. And then replacing them on the practice squad, returning defensive back Maurice Norris, who had such a great camp, it looked like he was going to make it onto the 53 originally, got injured, was put on IR, and then was waived injured, reverted to our reserve injured, and we then gave him an injury settlement. He is back, and then linebacker Abraham Beauplan, who again signed late on in the preseason process, really impressed in I think the final game or 2, and then didn't quite make it even into the practice squad. He's now back on the practice squad. And considering Barnes has gone down, that could be a really interesting signing because obviously he is aware of what we try and do here. So it's not necessarily like you're fresh signing off the street. Otherwise, we have a bit of news. Otherwise, Brian Branch has been fined $10,000 for the play where helmet-to-helmet contacts occur between him and tight end Trey McBride. Despite McBride initiating the contacts, it was a not great thing. Don't worry about putting that, Ash, in the prep doc, because I'll go through it with the injury stuff. It's all good. I got it. But we talked about it when we were commenting live. Branch didn't initiate the contacts and actually turned his head away. I know that there's some sort of misguided thought, I think, that it's incumbent on the defensive player to protect the attacking player, but surely it's a game of equal individuals. The offensive player can see where he's going, for goodness sake.
Exactly, yeah. So when it was announced, I did tag our good friends at Pride of Detroit, including Eric and Jeremy, and Eric replied pretty much instantly, "This is dumb." The TE clearly lowered his head. And I've asked him if it's appealable because I know that Texans UDFA running back British Brooks managed to appeal one of his fines for something similar, so hopefully that can happen here. But yeah, it's an offense-first league. We should, as you quite rightly point out in the broadcast, it was probable that Branch would get it just because they favour the offense, and you have all those rules, as we're seeing with Arnold, for instance, the amount of times he's been OPI'd and yet he makes one thing, it's DPI. It's just mad. But it's sad. It is sad that obviously Branch, who had to go for concussion protocol, McBride himself, because of the consequences of his own actions, has been ruled out for this week for the Cardinals. Yet it's Branch being fined for it when he did lower his helmet, but that was to more go over his shoulder. Then McBride just goes, whoop. It's on McBride. Everyone that watches the video can see it's on McBride, except for Cardinals fans, seemingly. And yet the league just sticks with offense.
Yeah. There's an inherent bias there. They are consistent with the bias. It's not like it's a bias against Branch or against Detroit. It's just misguided in terms of the total way it's dealt with around the league. It's incumbent on all players to ensure their own safety. And McBride put Branch in danger and not the other way around. Branch tried to get his head out of the way. So, don't know what they're playing at, but never mind. Let's get on with previewing this. So, Seahawks come into Detroit on Monday night. They are potentially the falsest 3-0 team in history. I would say that to a guest face if they were there, but never mind. They are 3-0. That was wins against Denver 26-20 in week 1, an overtime win at New England 23-20, and then a win last week against Miami Dolphins and their backup quarterback 24-3. So a rookie quarterback, a historically backup quarterback, and then one of the worst backup quarterbacks we've ever seen in the league, back to back to back. No wonder they're the best defensive team in football. For this game, the Seattle Seahawks are 8-5. That's plus 160 in American money. Detroit 19-10 on. That's minus 190. Detroit 3.5 point favourites on the spread, with an over-under of 46.5 points. In terms of the injury report, that is out for Detroit. And Frank Ragnow, it was already revealed that he will be out with a partial pectoral muscle tear. It is not thought to be a serious injury from the Detroit side, despite the fact that it sounds bloody serious. Dan Campbell said Frank already feels better since they actually revealed the injury, so it is hopeful that he will be back straight after Week 5's bye. The only person with a designation is Ennis Rakestraw, who's been out the last 2 games. He was in full practice on Saturday and limited Thursday and Friday. He is questionable for the game. Everyone else on the report, that's Brian Branch, Hogan Hatton. Hogan Hatton only appeared today, but he is okay. Sam Laporta, Ali McNeil, Levi Onzarike, Dan Skipper, all were full practice today. None of them has a designation for the game. The full report for the Seattle Seahawks is not out, but it is not good news for Seattle. In fact, it's very, very bad news. I'll start just off by saying their right tackle, Abraham Lucas, is on the PUP. He is eligible to return, but it is not expected he'll return until mid-season. And the replacement was the tackle George Fant, historically league average right tackle. They paid him a reasonable amount of money in this off-season. 2 years, 9.1 million. So, backup tackle money. Maybe even slightly less than backup tackle money. So, pretty good value for him. He was put on IR after last week's game. So, he can't go either. So, they're already down to tackle 3. And that's before we get to the injuries in this report. So, we know that ruled out already for this game are the following players, all in the front 7 of Seattle's defense. Boye Mafe, who's their leading sack master general. Byron Murphy, this year's first round pick at nose tackle. Leonard Williams, potentially their best down lineman. And Uchenna Nwosu, who was their sack leader last year, I believe. He hasn't played a game so far this season. He practiced on Wednesday, but then didn't practice Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, so he may have aggravated his injury. And then also struggling, apparently questionable for the game, is Jerome Baker, the weak side linebacker. He did not practice Thursday or Friday. We don't know about Saturday, but he is questionable. And then here's the rest of the list who have a designation or not. I don't know because the full Saturday report is not yet out. Anthony Bradford, right guard, did not practice Thursday with a knee. With full practice Friday, so he'll probably be fine. Noah Fant, limited with a toe Thursday, Friday. Kenneth Walker, running back, with an oblique, limited Thursday, Friday. Laken Tomlinson, the left guard, former Lion, limited on Thursday, full practice on Friday, so he'll probably be fine. Pharaoh Brown, the tight end with a foot, limited on both Thursday and Friday. Derek Hall, who's probably going to replace Boye Mafe at the left outside linebacker with a hip, limited in Thursday, full practice Friday, so he's probably fine. Tyler Lockett's on here with a thigh, but he probably will be fine because he was full practice on both Thursday and Friday. Jonathan Hankins, who's probably going to replace Byron Murphy at the nose. He was limited on Thursday and Friday with a calf. Jake Bobo, former Lion preseason hero, with a knee, he was full practice Thursday, Friday, so he's probably fine. DK Metcalf with a hand, full practice Thursday, Friday, so he's probably fine. Brady Russell, backup tight end, full practice Thursday, Friday with a shoulder. Kenny McIntosh, full practice Thursday, Friday with a hand. Tyrell Dotson, who's the starting Mike linebacker with a shoulder. He was full practice Thursday, but then was limited on Friday, so he's going to be an interesting one because he takes quite a lot of reps. And then safety number 3, Kayvon Wallace with a shoulder, was full practice Thursday, Friday, so he is also probably fine. Of course, there may have been some new injuries on Saturday or re-aggravations that I'm just not aware of right now until the full report comes out. If that comes out while we're live, I will update you. In fact, it has now come out as we speak. So all of those players out were questionable, as I said. Everyone else, apart from the 4 players out and the 1 questionable we said at the start, none of them have a designation. So everyone there is going to play. But you can see that Ash, they are a very banged up team right now.
Yeah, they are. It's seemingly that's what happens when you play in the NFC West these days. You just have a injury list as long as my food shop list. It's mad. Like when obviously it was announced that 5 of their starting front 7 are basically out for this game. Don't want to celebrate injuries, but I was like, yes, because I know, again, as we said earlier, they've played 3 relatively poor offenses with bad QBs, but they're leading in pressures for a reason. Mike McDonald just knows how to draw that up, doing great things with that defense where, yeah, they don't really have any superstars, but they've done pretty well. But yeah, and also we all saw last year when we were like, oh yeah, both their tackles are out. It's going to be great for us. We get some pressure, and what happened. So taking it with a pinch of salt. They have all these injuries, but for all we know, the backups will come in and just play out their mind. Obviously, don't want that to happen, but it's in the realm of possibility.
All right, let's have a look at our opponents for this game. So here is the offense for the Seattle Seahawks as expected right now. At quarterback, we have Geno Smith. The backup is Sam Howell by way of the Washington Commanders. At running back, we have Kenneth Walker, who is off the injury report now, no designation, so he will be starting probably. Zach Charbonnet behind him, who had a very good game last week. And then Kenny McIntosh is the 3rd running back. At wide receiver, maybe one of the better trios in the NFL, never mind the NFC, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Njigba. It seems that Njigba name is giving people some trouble. I heard in the Dolphins game, the person on the call was really struggling with the name. I also heard Eric on the Detroit Lions Breakdown podcast who also was struggling with the name big time, which really made me laugh. The other receivers back there, their depth is lacking. So Laviska Shenault is probably the biggest name. Obviously, he's a bit of a gadget back, kind of comes out the slot a little bit, more of a running back turned receiver guy. Never really done anything in the league, but he seems so electric on the ball that you can never count him out. And then the other 2 backup wide receivers, Jake Bobo, aforementioned, did very well in preseason in Detroit, but didn't make it last season. And then Derek Young, who I have to... No?
Jake Bobo's never played for us, unfortunately.
He played for us in preseason, didn't he?
Nope. He's been with the Seahawks ever since last season when they picked him up.
Yeah, but he was on the Detroit Lions for preseason because we cut him.
Nope.
Who am I thinking of?
Jake Funk,
No.
the running back.
No.
With that, no, because he literally he signed as an UDFA with the Seahawks.
Oh, okay. Who
It
am
was
I thinking
against.
of?
I don't know. It
Oh.
was against us last year. He scored his first NFL
Oh,
touchdown.
right. Okay, fine. I'm just... Ignore me. Fail. Anyway, right. Tight end, Noah Fant, who is going to be playing in this game. Pharaoh Brown, who is going to be playing in this game. Rookie tight end, AJ Barner from Michigan, and then Brady Russell. And then the starting 5 offensive linemen, Charles Cross, one of the better left tackles in the NFL. Laken Tomlinson at left guard, Connor Williams at centre, Anthony Bradford at right guard, and Stone Forsyth at right tackle. The backups in there, well, they've got a lot of draft picks and UDFAs with Michael Gerald, Satoa Laumea, Jalen Sundell, Christian Haynes, who was a 3rd rounder this year, and Olu Aluwatimi. That is your offense, Ash. What comes to mind when you think about the Seattle offense there?
God, this is going to be a test for our secondary. Like, I've said it, I was saying to my friends at Flag today, I was like, this is going to be a big test, especially for Arnold, because you've got the physicality of DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett is a damn good sort of like separator with his root link and that. And then in the slot, JSN just release package, could do pretty much everything. Yeah, the backups aren't that great. Like Bobo, I think you definitely remember because he was the, obviously because what we just discussed, but he was also the slot receiver you scouted who ran a 4.99 40-yard dash at the combine. So not exactly an elite separator. Chanel, obviously a former Jaguar and then Carolina Panther. Really poor man's Amon-Ra St. Brown. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown's like Louis Vuitton. Laviska Shenault is George Boyazda. He is not good at all. And Derek Young, their pick from last year, the bigger of the guys, but even then, like 6'2", 224, not really done much. So, got if they have an injury there, God help them. Tight end room, well, so long as we don't, well, James Houston probably being active, so we won't have to worry about him being burnt on a wheel route again. But damn good tight end room. Noah Fant, who obviously got in the trade for Russell Wilson all those years ago. He's a good receiving guy. People might remember him, obviously, as the guy who used to partner TJ Hutchinson at Iowa. Farrell Brown, been there, done that, one of the veteran guys, good receiving guy. AJ Barner, well, all Michigan fans should know him. And then Russell Brady, yeah. And then the running back room. Kenneth Walker, supposedly, is going to be fine. Thank God for my fantasy team, even though I'm not going to play him because I don't want to jinx it. But that's a really good sort of like 1-2-3 punch because Walker, MSU fans, and everyone know how good he is. Zach Charbonnet, former Michigan Wolverine, obviously, then went to UCLA. Damn good backup. And then Kenny McIntosh, who used to play for Georgia, he's pretty good as well. So, like, it's kind of like our running back room, just not as deep. And then, obviously, QB, Geno is Geno. Like, what a resurgence from him. Can make all the throws. Hasn't started this season as well as you probably hoped. Though, obviously, that might be a symptom of the offensive line because you've got you have good left tackle in Cross. Tomlinson's league average. Connor Williams, league average, coming off an ACL tear, I believe. Bradford, below average. And then Stone Forsyth. No, Matt Nelson, he's basically a slightly more athletic Matt Nelson from what I remember. But they've got depth. Like, everyone who listens to this podcast knows about Christian Hayes at this point. And favourite guy in last year's draft class. And obviously, Olu, again, former Michigan Wolverine. There's a lot of players that the fans will know about. It's a damn good offense. It's not like Chiefs. I was going to say Dolphins, but obviously without Tua. They're not top level, but they're that second tier Bucks area where they can be stopped mostly because of the QB, but they've got weapons everywhere, so they're damn hard to stop, but it is possible.
Yeah, so I've realised what I was doing there, by the way. Jake Bobo is someone that I profiled in the run-up to the draft. I conflate him with Chase Cota. who is a
Oh.
very similar height, weight, build, speed kind of guy to Jake Bobo. Slow, tall, contested catch guy.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're the same player in my head. But anyway, on to what you were saying about the Seahawks. This is maybe one of the best complementary offenses when it comes to what all of their skill players can do. Geno Smith is a slightly more mobile budget version of Jared Goff. He's a smart quarterback who delivers the ball decisively, quickly, accurately, doesn't have the best deep ball in the world, but can deliver it when required, can look flustered under pressure. So if that sounds like Goff, that's Geno. The only thing is that Geno has a bit more wheels, although of course Goff is maybe proving us wrong in that department now as well. The one thing that they don't have is a passable offensive line. Now, we said that last season, and the season before, and the season before, and they keep beating us. So, can't take that for granted. But having an interior offensive line of Laken Tomlinson, who had a small period in his career in the middle of it where he was actually pretty good, but otherwise has been pretty poor. Connor Williams, who couldn't get re-signed by Miami, who have one of the worst offensive lines in football. And then Anthony Bradford, who is decidedly meh. And then they have Stone Forsythe as their third tackle. That's not their fault. I can't understand why Christian Haynes isn't actually taking reps in this team, but the interior sucks, basically. And in the Miami game last week, yes, they won 24-3. Miami were all over them in terms of just how overwhelmed they were on the offensive line. And so the question will be, can Geno actually throw the ball? And can they run the ball? Because you won't find a better, well, apart from maybe our own, running back tandem than Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. I mean, those are two very productive, very good running backs. If the offensive line plays well, this is one of the best offenses in football. Because if you have a look at what DK does, it's very different to what Tyler Lockett does. They're both they can do the deep ball stuff. They're both very good on the outside. Smith and Jigba, fantastic over the middle. Obviously a bit slower, but a route running technician. He can really, make life very difficult. So those three, it's not just what they can do, because I think as a group of three, they're not as good as the Rams, as been mentioned on other shows and that sort of thing. But in terms of what they do together as a team, I think there's no better trio in football than them, because they complement each other so well. So it's one of those offenses where I don't fear it because of the offensive line. But if Geno gets himself time, or if he can get himself out of the pocket and throw on the run, you're going to be in trouble. So, don't take them lightly, but punish them on that offensive line and make Geno run for his life, I think has got to be the key here. Let's move on to the defense. And because they've got such problems on their defensive line when it comes to 4 of their front 7 starters being out, it's a struggle to project who's going to actually play in this game. But I've done my best here. So 3-4 base defense is what I've put up there on the screen for you. We've got Mike Morris instead of Leonard Williams. That is not a like-for-like replacement. You've got Jonathan Hankins at nose tackle, and then Jaron Reed is already a starter. He'll be good at the 3-tech position. The outside linebackers, Derek Hall and Draymond Jones, because that's Nchenna and Wozu out, as well as Boye Mafe. The inside linebackers, you've got Tyrell Dodson, mid linebacker, and Jerome Baker and on the weak side linebacker spot. If he plays, he's questionable, but he probably should play. And then the back 4 of Devon Witherspoon, who obviously went in that draft where we really wanted him in front of Gibbs, and Tariq Woolen, or Reek Woolen as he goes by nowadays. And then the safeties, Rayshawn Jenkins and Julian Love. Ash, this is a really good defense when it's fit. The back 4 is obviously very strong, but that front 7 looks completely different now.
It really does. I know, again, former Michigan player, so we're probably going to get a bit of hate in the chat for this. But yeah, Mike Morris is never going to be Leonard Williams. Never. Leonard Williams is a damn good defensive tackle. Byron Murphy is going to be a big miss for them as well. I know, obviously, there was a bit of a debate about him versus Johnny Newton, whichever one you want to call him, about which was going to be the best defensive tackle in the draft. looks like we're going to have to wait a few more weeks to really decide that. Jan Reed is just a consummate professional. He's always there. They're missing their top two edge rushers. Like, if only, they hadn't traded away their third guy. Oh, wait, he's now on the Bears. Damn it, Seattle. If only you could have predicted it. I'm joking, of course. Like, even though he's doing really well for the Bears, they couldn't have predicted it. It's what happened. Like, Draymond Jones is good. Derek Hall hasn't really done too much in the league so far, but he's got the draft pedigree to hit if he does. And then they've obviously got Travis Gibson, who they traded for from Jacksonville, was like the sort of third guy to rotate in. But again, they're one injury away from being really screwed there. And then inside linebackers, Baker's going to be a massive miss because Dotson's okay, but he's not great. Drake Thomas, and then Tyrese Knight, who obviously they drafted this year at UCF, he's okay, but they're all run stoppers. If they don't have Baker, he's the only one who can really cover. So now Laporta is going to be good. Just attack the middle with that, and then the back five even. So it seems when they go to nickel, Witherspoon goes into the slot corner, and Trey Brown, the former Sooner, I believe, comes in as a outside corner.
Mm-hmm.
Damn good trio. Julian Love plays a sort of inverse of Brian Branch, if that makes sense. Sometimes he goes in the slot, but he also then lines up at free safety. Rayshorn Jenkins is a good box guy. Kobe Bryant can play slot, strong safety, outside corner if you need to. They've got Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn, the speedy outside corner who quite a lot of Lions fans and Eric Schlitt loved in the draft. They've got guys on the back end, but as we've seen time and time again with so many different teams, how even with our own, where we didn't have the best secondary players, if the front seven can't get home and put pressure on the QB, you're just going to get diced apart. And I know, obviously, Ragnar being out is going to be a big miss for us. Still the question marks what we're going to do to solve that problem. But coming up against the front seven, who is severely depleted, will hopefully help us keep Goff clean and can just pick the back end apart and try and avoid to throw straight to any dropping outside linebackers, because I don't think I can take another one of them again.
Yeah, it's going to be a feisty defense. I mean, the way they play is very, very interesting. They rarely blitz, but they bring a lot of simulated pressure. They leave you guessing about where it's coming from. They put stress on offensive line. They create doubt in a quarterback's mind. You need to be a smart quarterback to play Seattle because, of course, with their change of head coach, who's come over from the Baltimore Ravens on the defensive side of the ball, Michigan fans know him well, that Baltimore defense is obviously fearsome. It's put us to the sort of number of times, so we can expect there to be familiarity there with what we may not be particularly good at. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I wonder if all of the injuries they have are just going to take their toll on this team. We shall see.
And also, just to build off it as well, we here at this podcast should be kind of happy to see their DC, but not at the same time, because he's a fellow Brit, isn't he? The former Cowboys defensive line coach and former Londoner Aidan Durday.
No idea. Cool. Fair. Punter's Michael Dixon. Kicker is Jason Myers, one of the better in the league. And the long snapper is Chris Stoll, who I know nothing about. But Myers has had a really good season so far, so Stoll probably has as well. Overall, this team is first in PFF grade so far, 87.5, given their opposition, not that surprising. 8th on offense and 1st on defense. By DVOA, it's 3rd overall, 6th on offense, 2nd on defense. So both metrics are vaguely replicating themselves there. Gino's having a pretty good season by his standards. I think one thing you can say consistently about the first two teams there in Denver and New England is they are good defensive teams. Miami maybe not so much. And Gino has navigated that pretty well. 77, 103, that's 75% completion rate. 787 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for a 93.8 passer rating, 62.4 QBR. He's also got 11 of 36 and 1 touchdown on the ground. His PFF grade is 83.9. Running backs, Kenneth Walker III, because of injury, he's been limited to only 20 rushes for 103 yards. That's 5.2 yards per attempt and 1 touchdown. He's also 2 of 3 for 6 yards in the air. 75.1 PFF grade for him. Zach Charbonnet has been carrying the load in Ken Walker's absence. He's got 40 for 141, which is 3.5 yards per attempt for 3 touchdowns and 10 of 12 for 76 and a touchdown through the air. His PFF grade is 64.4. Leading receivers DK Metcalf, 17 of 21 for 262 yards. That's 15.4 yards per reception and 2 touchdowns here. His PFF grade is 70. Other good grades in this team. The tackle Charles Cross I mentioned as one of the better ones in football. His grade is 88.7 despite giving up a really bad sack in the Miami game. And the wide receiver Tyler Lockett, 71.8. Only one bad grade in the entire offense. That's Anthony Bradford, the right guard. 46.1 so far this season. I said their interior offensive line was weak, and he has been a big part of that. In terms of how this team has changed since this offseason, 4 draft picks on offense. Christian Haynes, 81 overall from UConn, the guard. Tight end AJ Barnett from Michigan, 121 overall. For some reason, I decided not to put the positions in here, which is not ideal sometimes. We've also got the offensive lineman Salto Laumea from Utah at 179, and Michael Jarrell, the offensive tackle from Findlay, at 207. In terms of free agency gains, I mentioned George Van Ern earlier. Centre Connor Williams came over 1 year, $4 million, and wide receiver LaFisca Chenault 1 year, $1.3 million. That tells you what the rest of the league thinks about a person like him. In terms of losses in this offseason, they've lost a fair deal. The guard Damian Lewis to Carolina, they paid him a packet. Tight end Colby Parkinson went to the Rams, and the tight end Will Dissly went to the Chargers, respectively. Running back DJ Dallas went to Arizona. Quarterback Drew Lock went to the Giants. Centre, former Lion Evan Brown went to Arizona. We faced him last week. And then the guard, Phil Haynes, the UFA, and Nick Ballor, former Lion fullback, is now in Washington. In terms of efficiency, they're 19th on 3rd down, 16th on 4th down, and 15th in the red zone. So, Ash, they're 3-0, but they've played 2 really tight games and then one against Miami that was a blowout for 1 quarter and then was fairly tight for the rest of the way. They've not invested a huge deal on offense. In terms of starter players in the draft, they've got Haynes, who's a backup, Barner, who's a backup, and then the rest aren't playing. And they've lost Dissly, Parkinson, Lewis, backup quarterback and Lock, functional running back in Dallas, Evan Brown, solid interior offensive lineman. And yet they're 3-0. They've played okay, but I think being a top 10 offense is just a bit weird right now. Do you think it's a function of who they've played?
Honestly, yeah. So they've lost a lot. Some of them are big losses and not. So DJ Dallas is basically a special team at this point. Saw last week, didn't get a carry. But yeah, they just really haven't replaced some of them well enough. Like Damian Lewis, not exactly the best guard in the world, but was at least startable and has been pretty decent from the Panthers from what I can hear. So that's a big loss. Obviously, Phil Haynes, everyone's different, but if they can overcome that bad interior, which might come when and gets his wish and Christian Haynes starts, but with the Seattle having a week 10 bye, it's probably not going to happen until after that, to be honest. They've just got to work to overcome it. And the good news is, I guess, is that obviously their offensive coordinator is kind of used to having a mobile-ish, semi-injury prone QB operating behind an offensive line that's got 2 good tackles, not a good interior, because he's a former Washington guy that they've brought over with the whole new rebrand. So he'll be able to scheme it up. Like, they've got the receivers too, obviously, saying like DK Metcalf's averaging 15.4 yards per reception. That's pretty damn good. Like, but yeah, I agree. It's a function of who they've played. Like Denver, they're playing the week 1 Bo Nix, which I know technically he doesn't go in offense, but the fact he threw a couple of picks gave them good field position. Miami, they're having the Dallas Cowboys sort of meltdown with Tua being out. Just everything's going wrong for them, and the one kind of semi-functional defense they've played with New England, they go to overtime. And New England aren't even that great. Like, I think that was one of the times when May had to come in for injury. They're not exactly great, and even then they went to overtime. So coming up against hopefully our defense, where we've had improvements in the secondary, Branch should hopefully be back. Anzalone's going to be back marshalling the middle, which will help the run defense. The only real weakness I can see on our defense going up against them is obviously the loss of Barnes, because we just don't have an adequate replacement to Sam. And considering we sit in our base 50% of the time now, that's a big loss, and that could have really helped against Charles Cross having Barnes line up over Pascal's outside shoulder. Pascal's the one replacing Davenport. That would have helped get round him, force him to run the opposite way towards Hutch, towards where Anzalone is. So hopefully we can show them what their offense actually really is now when they come up against us.
All right, let's move it over to the defensive side of the ball. Their leading tackler is Tyrell Dodson. He's got one pass no, he's not the leading tackler, but he's the leading linebacker. One pass defended, a sack, 23 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, a quarterback hit, and a PFF grade of 70. And Boye Mafe was the leading sack person, but of course, he's not playing in this game. So bear with me as I pick up someone else here. So in terms of sacks, who have we got to watch out for here? Well, Derek Hall's the other one who's got 3 sacks, actually, and he will be playing probably in place of Boye Mafe. Started 1 game, a forced fumble, 3 sacks, 9 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss, 7 quarterback hits. I don't have his PFF grade in front of me, but I will do in 2 seconds. It is somewhere. 72.3. Otherwise, on defense, Tariq Woolen is the leading pass defender at the cornerback position. 1 interception, 3 passes defended, 6 tackles, PFF grade of 80.8. And Julian Love is the leading safety. 1 interception, 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, 23 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a PFF grade of 90.6. It's been a really good performance from him this season. Other good grades in there: safety Rayshon Jenkins, 81. Leonard Williams not playing, of course, grade of 80. Derek Hall, the outside linebacker, edge, 72.3. And Devon Witherspoon, 70.8. There are no bad grades on defense whatsoever. Again, perhaps a function of who they have played. In terms of how this team has changed since the off-season, Byron Murphy, who I put Brian Murphy in there, who I remember that was a mistake as well, but never mind. From Texas, defensive lineman at 16 overall. Linebacker Tyrese Knight, backup Mike from UTEP at 118. And Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn, the corner at 136. And DJ James, the corner from Auburn as well at 192. I suspect a lot of people in the draft process preferred DJ James as maybe even a day 2 pick over Pritchett, but Pritchett goes over James, both at the same team. In terms of free agency gains, Rayshon Jenkins comes in 2 years, 12 million. The linebacker Tyrell Dodson, 1 year, 4.26 million. And Jonathan Hankins, the defensive tackle, 1 year, 2.05 million. Their losses, not insubstantial as well. Defensive tackle Brian Moan, linebacker Bobby Wagner has gone to Washington. Safety Quandre Diggs and safety Jamal Adams have both gone to Tennessee. Defensive end Mario Edwards has gone to Houston. And the linebacker Devin Bush has gone to the Cleveland Browns. In terms of efficiency on defense, this is where it really gets fun. 4th on 3rd down, 3rd on 4th down, and 5th in the red zone. Ash, all I can say is those are pretty impressive efficiency metrics on the key downs. And it's a team that's very highly ranked by PFF. And a lot of those players are, those back 4, back 5 players who are very, very good. But the way you convert on 3rd and 4th down and in the red zone is by having a functional defensive line. And good luck when the top 4 guys are out.
Exactly. And again, as you said, it's a function of who they've played. Like, do you really trust rookie Bo Nix to be able to convert well on 3rd down, 4th downs? Do you trust Jacoby Brissett and Drake May? Do you trust Skylar Thompson and the Laser Show? No. Like, it's all well, like, again, I don't doubt that by season's end, they'll still probably be top 10 because McDonald is that good of a DC that he'll probably be able to get that out of the players. But against us, especially those third and fourth downs, if it's third and 3, 4th and 1, Monty is just going to destroy that interior defensive line. It's not even funny that, like, this is a game where I am crying out for Monty to get the lion's share of the carries. I love Gibbs to bits. I am slightly biased because I've started Monty in fantasy, but with the injuries they're having on the defensive line, it just makes sense to load up, have Skipper play that 6 offensive line role like he did last week against Arizona, and just run it up the gut, because no matter who comes in, if it's Awasika coming in at left guard and Graham goes to centre, if it's Michael Nish coming straight in at centre, they're both better run blockers than they are pass blockers. So just play to that. Just run the ball down their throats. And when the linebackers, whoever it is, starts creeping forward to play the run, they bring people into the box. Play action. Slip out Sam Laporta on blocking releases, chips and releases. Amon Ra in that hole between the linebackers and the safeties. So many ways just to draw them in with the run and then just hit them deep. Like, it might go against us. Love might get another interception. Reek might get... Someone will probably get an interception off Goff. Spoiler alert from my article, which is hopefully coming out tomorrow. But they're beatable. With the injuries on the defensive line, it doesn't matter. You could have Daryl Reeves back there. If he's having to cover for 8 seconds, someone's going to get through.
Yeah, I'll come on to talking about matchups in just a minute. Let's talk briefly about the Miami game then, the most recent game that they had. 24-3 it ended to Seattle. They won the first quarter 17-3, and then they scored a touchdown in the fourth quarter, and there were no more points in this game. Skylar Thompson, as I said, started. He actually went off with injury and was replaced by former Lion Tim Boyle, which was actually a slight improvement, which is kind of sad. Gino didn't have his best game, but he was very efficient. 26 of 34 for 289 with a touchdown, but also 2 picks. On the ground, Zach Charbonnet was 18 for 91 and 2 scores on the ground. DK Metcalf was the leading receiver, 4 of 6 for 104 and a touchdown, including a massive 71-yarder. The tail of the tape for me is really on defense, where Seattle had 12 quarterback hits and 6 sacks, which is a reason why Skylar Thompson went out of this game. Ash, I don't know whether you watched it, but Skylar didn't look like a passable NFL quarterback.
Yeah, which pained me a bit because I remember kind of liking him as a high variance backup in the league, where, like I was saying again earlier, that in a situation like what happened to him in this game, where your QB goes down injured, but you know it's kind of injury that only really rules him out for this game, he's the kind of guy you would, and you're down, you'd happily put in because he might easily lose you the game, be already losing, but you could also hit the 60-yard bombs and absolutely destroy the opposition secondary and bring you back into the game. But turned out in this one, he just didn't. He couldn't say it with his chest, quite literally, because that's what it ruled him out. And don't know what's happened to Miami. Like, well, partly we know what's happened to it, obviously without the QBs, but you'd think with Mike being such an supposedly elite offensive play caller, he would be able to make an offense around that. So whoever's behind center, all they have to do is 3-step drop, look who's open, chuck them the ball where they can catch it. But instead, their offense is just falling apart, like getting nothing on the ground. Like when Tim Boyle is one of your leading is one of your leading rushers. A-Chain's not doing much. Jalen Wright looked great, as everyone predicted, getting him drafted, but just they couldn't get anything going on offense because the QB play was just so bad. Like, yeah, Boyle was a slight improvement, but that's like saying, I don't know, putting me in at QB is a slight improvement over putting my younger brother in who's never even watched the NFL. Like, this barely an upgrade. So, yeah, Seattle played pretty damn well on defense. You say 6 sacks is nothing to shake a stick at, but it's again pretty easy when you've got Skylar Thompson flustered and then Tim Boyle who doesn't have any pocket presence whatsoever.
No, he doesn't. Just some notes that I made after watching this game. So Gino was in rhythm and firing darts fairly early on. Bradford gave a bad sack up to former Lion Deshaun Hand, of all people. It was an incredible grab by DK Metcalf on the sideline in the first quarter. I mean, proper big boy Billy Bollocks stuff. It was great. Otherwise, offensive line struggled throughout this game, especially in pass pro, but also run blocking. And when they got it right, it was fine. But they gave up quite a lot of flags with holding calls, illegal formations, that sort of thing. Their offensive line needs to sort it out when it comes to run blocking, but the pass blocking is pretty woeful. I'll come on to matchups in a minute, but yeah, not great. Really good quick passing over the middle, especially by Gino. So a lot of play to Noah Fant at the tight end and Smith and Jigba in the slot. Seems to target that area and pepper it quite a lot before going outside. It's not dissimilar really to kind of how we run our own offense in terms of the passing game. Didn't have anything else on offense. They really just gave Miami a lot of pressure up front. They knew that their game was going to be screens, quick passes, and then a little bit of run game outside the tackles. And they just really came at the line of scrimmage and came down hard, flowed to the ball really aggressively, had several people getting theirs whenever, a person from the backfield came forward up to the line of scrimmage. He was met by 2 or 3 guys. It was really impressive. But Skylar Thompson just did not help matters. He couldn't feel pressure, hung onto the ball far too often. Exemplified by the final play at the end of the first half, where it's about midfield, so it's a Hail Mary situation, and Skylar escapes pressure, gets to the line of scrimmage near the near sideline. He's kind of dialing up his arm, but he's kind of thinking about it, and he just gets strip sacked from behind after standing in the same place for about 3-4 seconds, and it's like, what are you doing? Just throw the damn ball. Like, I don't understand what he was doing. It was baffled me. But anyway, let's get on to matchups. I'm just going to show the Lions formation here so we can start talking about this. So here's how we expect the Lions to line up on offense. I say, here's how I expect it to. There is an argument going on about who's going to play centre. Now, I, along with a few other people, believe that it's going to be Michael Neese coming in as a straight swap at centre. Neese was the second team centre all the way through camp, and so he's well versed at playing for the Lions in this scheme at centre. There's a school of thought that Glasgow's going to move over to centre and we're going to play the best guard, who's probably a better guard than Neese as a centre. So it's about getting your best 5 into the team. That would probably be Coyote Awashika. Either of those are absolutely fine. This is what I've got on the board, but there we go. And it feels like, it feels like to me this game is going to be one. Oh, I should say one change. I've put Tim Patrick in as a starting wide receiver instead of Khalif Raymond because he is playing starter level reps. I think he played 50 reps last week. Raymond's played under 10. So it seems fairly clear to me now that he's going to be the starter, especially since he got signed to the main roster. Apparently Ben Johnson might have said it might have been Graham Glasgow at centre at the press conference. I did not hear that, and I have not heard anyone else talk about that either, Brian, so I'm sure you're right. But there we go. Anyway, trench play feel like it's going to be massive here with Seattle's injuries there. With how good their back 4 is, it feels like this needs to be a place where we absolutely obliterate them.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I know obviously you're Denise. I was of the latter argument. Get your best 5 out there. I know obviously it means moving 2 people, but that's by the by. It is going to be the trenches. Like, I trust Saul to hold down whoever plays against him. Decker, just about 90%. I know he had a kind of a bit of a down week last week, but it happens. Not going to hold it against you. It's that interior. No matter what happens, we need to trust them. Zeitler bounced back last week. Briz on the DLP said, and he's like in the recap that that's the best game he's seen from Zeitler in a while. And that includes between him in Baltimore, him in New York with the Giants, and I think him in the up to him being a Brown. So that's pretty encouraging considering the slight lapse he had in week one. Obviously, in that first drive where he just didn't pick up the stunt, and it led to an easy sack on Goff. But yeah, that center left guard combination is going to be the key because that's probably where their free tech will probably line up. If that's where I'd put him if I was Mike McDonald. They've got to hold up because Goff is panicking a bit with the pressure right up in his face. He can deal with it from the tackles. He can just step up, but if it's coming in his face, then he's going to be able to deal with it. And then obviously, hate to say it, but I told you so with Tim Patrick. What did I say for 3 months?
Yeah.
And he deserves it. He looks absolutely great. And yeah, he might not get many catches, especially since he'll be going up against either Witherspoon or Brown or Woolen for the most part. But if he can block on the outside for Gibbs, for Monty, if he can block for, I don't know, screen to Amon-Ra or to JMO, that's all we can ask of him, and I'm happy. So it is just going to be about blocking their front seven, giving Goff and the running backs as much time and space as we can get them. And then hopefully the Seattle secondary, they'll have to sort of take the second wave of stuff and they'll be slow to react.
Yeah, I really think that they're going to have to pack the line of scrimmage and try and sell out to stop the run to combat this, because I don't think that the horses can take it without doing that. It is kind of a function of how they play anyway, where they have 6 or 7 guys pretty close to the line of scrimmage. I expect that to maybe even be 8 a good amount of the time, for them just to say, we've got good DBs. Yes, we might get killed by Amon-Ra or Sam Laporta, but I'd rather die through the air with Goff throwing than on the ground with Monty and Gibbs doing it. If they do that, I think that's the way to go. I think the way that Goff has played so far this season would lend itself to say, I'll take a chance against him than Monty, who's just, so reliable. So I think you're absolutely right with that. But I expect them to have some success doing that, at least early on. We see the Lions start really hot in the run and end really hot in the run and go through a kind of barren 2.5 quarter, 3-quarter period in the middle of the game where we don't really do a huge amount in the run game. I don't expect it to go quite that way this time. I think that we'll still do well at the start and end of a game. I do expect a little bit more success because of how they're banged up, but I do expect them to try and limit us massively. I don't see any big plays in this game necessarily on the ground for us, just consistently putting ourselves in really good third and short situations or converting on second and medium. So that should be nice and move the 6 and control the clock. On the other side of the trenches, our defensive line against their offensive line, I have to think this is a massive advantage for the Lions. I talked about how their interior of the offensive line sucks, but their right tackles, or Stone Forsyth is a good backup offensive lineman, which is a bit of an indictment, really, because there are no good reserve offensive linemen, really. So if this isn't a game where the Detroit defense can come alive, I don't know what is. Now, we said that in game 1 of this season and game 3 of this season. So when it comes to game 4, I'm pretty sure they're going to be aware of this. So Ash, I really think that the order of the day here for them is going to be something that I think we're actually well equipped to attack, which is Geno getting the ball out very, very quick. Not unlike what Baker was doing as well in week 2. So I'm thinking week 2? Week 2. Screens, swing passes, extensions of the run game, maybe slants, that sort of thing that kind of gets the ball out of Geno's hands to protect against that weak offensive line, because Levi and Reader and Aleem and Hutch should absolutely eat in this game if they don't do that.
Yeah, so basically what you're calling is you're predicting that Seattle are going to take the Ben Johnson red zone playbook and just run it all the time, much to the chagrin of us, I guess. But yeah, I completely agree. Like, they're going to have to give Stone Forsyth some help, which means they'll probably keep a tight end in to block.
But if they do that, Noah Fant's maybe their best offensive weapon in terms of moving the chains right now. So they'll have to play 2 tight ends if they want to keep him as a receiving threat, which takes one of Smith and Jigba, Lockett, or TK off the field, which is not something you want to do either. I don't see what they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly. Unless, even then, I'd like to say put a fullback, but no one don't have one. But also still taking someone out there. They're in a no-win situation feasibly because either you keep a tight end into block, probably against Hutch on that right tackle, and then you leave whoever's going to be bookending on the upper side. They're going to go up against Charles Cross, and honestly, that's the one advantage I see Seattle's O-line having, because Cross is a damn good pass protector. As much as I like Josh Pascal, not really a great pass rusher. If we had Kamish, maybe you could get a few pressures, but again, not great. Dare I say, even though I jokes about it earlier, is this the game James Houston finally becomes active? I don't know. I'm not predicting it 100% right now, but
I think not.
If it happened,
personally, but yeah,
it's one of them where, like, honestly, I know we don't have to declare elevations till literally an hour before the game. If we get the elevations and we see one of Mitchell Agude or Isaac Okwu is elevated to play that Sam role, wouldn't be surprised. I know I'm more of a Agude fan. I think you're more of an Okwu fan, but either way, both can do it.
I was an Agude fan in pre-season until the last game, game and a half, and then I thought Okwu was probably producing slightly higher, but whatever. They're both much of a muchness to me. They're not similar players, but I consider them similarly in my head. But anyway.
Yeah, but it's fine. Yeah. It's just one of them where they're going to have that advantage with Charles Cross. Hutch is hopefully going to have advantage in that against Simon Forsyth. So, again, it's that interior. I know some analysts have said that pass rush, that upside he has is probably limited a bit. He can definitely won't get pushed back. Is again the push forward not so much anymore, it seems, based off some of the clips we've seen. But can he do that against their interior offense? Could Levi just continue this breakout he's having? I say yes personally, but can he do that? Aleem, I know he's coming off a shoulder injury, but can he have that breakout game that we've all been asking him for to get him the big bags? We've got pieces there to really punish their offensive line and hopefully force Gino to have to get out quick, and then you can have Branch crashing down to sniff out the screens like a dog in an airport sniffing out someone trying to smuggle cocaine. We've got the plays there, and then if Gino then starts to have to throw it deep, well, our boy, who I'll be modelling on Monday Night Football with a lovely new uniform, he'll be able to just pluck it out of the air, hopefully, and instead of being in the end zone, run it back for a pick six.
Yeah, it's going to be a fascinating battle. Just on our receiving weapons against their DBs, this is maybe the most closely matched of all of the matchups, with Amon-Ra, J-Mo, and Tim Patrick or Khalif or Alan Robinson going up against, Tariq Woolen, Devon Witherspoon, Julian Love, and Rayshawn Jenkins, and then the fifth guy, Trace, what's his name?
Trey Brown.
I want to say Trey Smith. That is not the same guy.
That's the guy that's on RIR. Traquan Smith.
Oh, I was thinking of the guard for the Chiefs. But anyway, Trey Smith?
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Anyway, they're back 5 and R3, along with Sam Laporta making it 4. It's just high quality on both sides of the ball. I think when you look at that, when it's receive against DBs, I kind of tend to favour the offense just marginally, because when you have a good defense like that, it tends to be this defense limits the offense to what they can produce in a big way, but they still get theirs, if you know what I mean. So I would anticipate one of Amon-Ra or Sam Laporta to have a good day. I also think that because obviously Sam has come off another injury, that underrated, this could be another good opportunity for Brock Wright to show his stuff as well. What do you think?
Yeah, 100% agree. Dare I say it? Will we see the Brock Wright signature play again?
Oh, please.
I know.
Please.
I know you love that play. But I can see it, yeah. Especially if we are having a few issues with the interior, so we're trying to beef it up and get some double teams going. Yeah, just have Brock do that. Do his signature play. Bob jobs are good, but yeah, this is going to be a tough matchup for weapons. Like Amon Ra will probably get some over the middle because he just does. Tim Patrick will probably, whoever's playing the X receiver, probably get locked down. It's honestly going to be on JMO. Can he beat Devon Witherspoon in base? Can he beat Trey Brown in nickel when he's up against him? And will Goff actually look his way? That's the issue. Like, I, again, keep coming back to it. One of my friends, they asked me, who should I play? Jameson Williams against Seattle or Terry McLaurin? And it pained me to say it, but I told him Terry McLaurin because I don't know if JMO could repeat the first couple of weeks.
Yeah, whether it's going to be like last week where he got no catches.
Yeah, something like one catch for like 5 or something. He got one. It was mad. Like,
yeah. In fact, he might have had negative yardage in the game because he had the end around that failed, or double reverse that failed. But anyway, going to the other side of the ball, and again, another really good matchup of players. I mean, the Lions DBs have been, let's say they've been frisky. Obviously, Kirby Joseph is having a rebound year, which is absolutely fantastic. Carlton Davis, I think, has played really well. He's had some teething problems in the defense, but I think generally speaking, it's some of the more solid veteran cornerback play we've seen here. Brian Branch has been fantastic back at safety. Terrion Arnold has had ups and downs, but the most recent time we saw him on the field, the second half of last week, he did really, really well. He seems to be coming on. And then, you know, if you incorporate some of those linebackers in there, who's going to play at that Sam, and how does that feature into the back seven? I don't know. Could be Ben Neiman. It feels like everyone's forgotten about Ben Neiman, but he was the guy who came in at Sam when Barnes went down last week. So my feeling is that it could be Neiman to come in. I know that people were talking about Malcolm, but Malcolm was active last. Yeah, exactly. Don't see it going to be him. I don't think we're going to move anyone out of their natural linebacker position to fit Malcolm in. Could it be Reeves Mabin? He's not big enough. So it is going to be tough to see who else it's going to be. Could it be Nowaski? Well, I'd say Neiman probably has a bit more pedigree right now. I think Nowaski is still a work in progress, so let's see. Anyway, our DBs are frisky, as I'm saying, but we talked about how good that wide receiver core is, how good Noah Fant is. So if Geno can throw the ball, it's going to be an interesting matchup. I would say probably advantage Seahawks marginally if Geno can be kept upright, but it's a massive if.
It really is. Like, as I said earlier, this is, I know obviously Arnold's gone up against Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Puka Nakua, Cooper Kupp, Michael Wilson, Marvin Harris Jr. Again, it's another murderer's row of receivers for him to go up against. But isn't this what we kind of want? Him to face all these tough receivers. So then when we come up against, I'm going to be blunt, the Packers receiving core, who have potential, but aren't these receivers, because he's had that trial by far, because he's basically chucked in the deep end and been told, right, learn to be less handy, learn to watch the receiver. He'll be all the better for it. So, yeah, he'll probably give up a couple of plays like Carlton Davis has, because honestly, depending on what metrics you look at, either he is having one of the worst corner seasons as a corner so far, or he's had one of the best. There is no in between with what the metrics are saying. If you look at passer rating, completion percentage, it's bad. If you look at like havoc plays, which you know you posted on our Discord earlier with Brian Branch leading the league in them, which is great. He's been good at that. I trust Carlton to lock up whoever he's facing for the most part. Maybe Lockett will be able to get past him a bit with the route running, but it'll be on Arnold to lock down Metcalf, and then either a Meek or Brian to lock down JSN, because if Geno's having to get the ball out quick, it's going to go to JSN on the quick slants, the quick outs and that. So that's honestly the three, that's the match we're going to be watching the most, which sounds weird when the other two are the higher profile ones, but JSN versus Meek Robinson, this could be a real prove it game where it's actually Meek's like, this is why I've got the starting role. This is why, but yeah, we've moved Brian to safety for all these reasons, but this is why I'm the starting slot corner. This is why we've done it, because he could hold JSN to one catch for 5 yards. Hopefully he does. He could also give up 7 catches on 8 targets for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is going to be the big matchup.
All right, so let's talk about what we actually think is going to happen. We've talked about what could happen, where the advantages may lie, But how is it going to go with the score predictions there?
I'm not going to predict what I did in our preseason predictions to the praises of everyone. Mostly because that happened last week. Jake, you were 1 week early. Come on, man. I can see us winning by one score. It's going to be one of them. When I say it's a shootout, but not like a proper 50 points each shootout. This is not James Madison versus UNC. But I can see it sort of being like whoever has the ball last wins the game. So I'm going to say 31 to 24. No, 24. So 31-24 to the Lions.
Okay. I am going to be more bold. I think a lot of people have been calling this to be a close game. And I don't see it. I don't see it. The Lions hang their hat on trench warfare on both sides of the ball. That is what they intend to do. They have a massive advantage on both sides of the ball on the lines in this game. I expect us to control clock. I expect us to wreck their offensive line. I expect us to wreck their defensive line. I think Gino's going to struggle in this game. And the thing is, I think that's going to make the game easy for Goff. I think he's going to have an efficient performance without putting the ball in harm's way. I think this is going to be a really exciting game for Lions fans in a sort of, this isn't affecting my heart rate like the last three have done, but man, it's nice to see. I expect a high two-score victory. So I'm going to go 34-17 in this one, I think. Which is far higher than the 4-point victory I had pegged in the off-season, but they've just lost so much. And yes, Frank isn't playing, but he's one of the best centres in the league, if not the best centre in the league. It's a big loss. I still think we're going to absolutely batter them. Now, okay, we've got our backup centre against Jonathan Hankins. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Anyway.
Yeah, exactly so. All right. Anything else you want to say about this game before we do the rest of the games around the NFL?
I can't wait to wear my black and blue jersey. They look so fucking good. To the point where this is getting retired now. We're getting a new jersey. And one of the things I suggested as a model, especially since one we've picked to model it on, very similar to black and blue.
Nice.
So I'm going to be a happy boy.
Grandizer wants a player of the game. I mean, okay, I'll go Monty then, if I have to. I don't like giving players of the game at this stage, to be honest. But
Kirby.
Fair. All right. Let's talk about the rest of the week's games. Of course, the Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants in a shit-off earlier this week. Next up, we have got... I need to flick over to the spread. We've got Saints at Falcons. 3 points in favour of the Atlanta Falcons. What do you think?
I honestly don't know. I can see it's going either way. Carr, at least the first 2 weeks, really good starts to the season. Last week, not so much. Why didn't you throw it more to Chris Olave, you bastard? Going up against, I know we keep saying it with Kirby and Branch, they're one of the best safety duos in the league. The Falcons have got the best safety duo in the league, and it's not even close for me. Jesse Bates, Justin Simmons, good luck throwing it deep on them. But at the same time, the Saints defense, I'm not exactly convinced by it. So I could see Kirk having a sort of bounce back game. I know he hasn't had exactly the best start to the season in the red and black, but then again, maybe if refs can call DPI correctly, instead of calling on Arnold every single time, when someone's got their arms wrapped around Kyle Pitts, actually throw the flag. So I could see this going either way. Honestly, if this ends in some weird overtime shootout where both teams just either keep scoring on each other or just can't score, I would not be surprised. It's the ultimate NFC South matchup where anything goes. And when we look back at it, when we start the live stream for Monday Night Football, no matter what the score is, I will not be shocked.
I've got the Saints to win outright, never mind having the 3-point cushion. Just think that they're playing good complementary football. and the Falcons are a work in progress. I expect them to come good come the end of the year, and they're warming up. I think the Saints are just a more complete team. All right, next game, Panthers at home against the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are 4.5-point favourites away. What do you think?
The Red Rifle gets his revenge.
Really?
Yeah. So one of the guys at Flag is a Bengals fan, and he said he could see Dalton coming and just wreaking his revenge. The Bengals, I know obviously they've had T. Higgins out for a bit and Jamar Chase having his hold out on that. They've just put Trent Brown there, right tackle on IR. I don't know if they can keep, but Burrow can keep up. And Dalton was such a good stabilizing force for that offense last week. I know Freeland's now on IR, but Deontay Johnson is finally showing what he did in Pittsburgh for those couple of years. Chuba Hubbard's actually looks fairly decent at running back. They're not exactly the best offensive line in the world, but at least with a QB who isn't panicking, they can deliver the ball. They have a competent offense. The defense is a work in progress. They've got one of the best defensive coordinators in the league, but not a lot there. Maybe they can turn it on against the Bengals offensive line, which isn't great. Joe Burrow, who's panicking, and a receiving core that outside of their slot, Andre Oshivasu, fans of the podcast remember out of Princeton, we liked him a couple of years ago. They could actually get something here, doom the Bengals to 4-0, and make Trey Hendrickson one step closer to here.
0-4.
0-4, yeah. What? No, my brain's gone today.
Yeah, I'm suffering myself. I have the Panthers straight up. Yeah, I have tried to resist I think the Bengals are poor feeling because just because they were 0-2 and then they lose again, and it's like, you know what, Dalton showed me enough where I can buy into them just having another bad day. Next up, LA Rams at Chicago Bears. Bears favoured by 3 at home. What do you think?
Hell no. Stafford, you know what to do. Please. That, and can Braden Fisk get 5 tackles for loss on John J. Swift for me, please? That would just be hilarious. Don't know what Bears fans were thinking, man. He was here. We have one of the best offensive line, one of the best run schemes. Not good enough for here. So we trade him to Philadelphia. Great offensive line, good run scheme. Not good enough there. So why the fuck did you think he was good enough for you, Bears fans? Caleb just has weapons. Don't say again, don't told you so, but Keenan Allen's just not there. DJ Moore can only carry so much, and it's not going to happen.
I'm going for the narrowest of narrow routes to victory here. I'm going for a Bears win, Rams cover 3. And it's going to be a very, very close game. So,
yeah.
Next up, Vikings at the Green Bay Packers in maybe the most anticipated game of the entire slate. Green Bay favoured by 3 in a game where Mr. Love is back in the building. Ash, what do you think?
To quote Kevin Keegan, I would absolutely love it if they beat them. Please, Sam, I know I ripped into you in the off-season, and I know my esteemed colleague quite rightly pointed out what actually was going to happen. Jordan Love coming off whatever happened with his MCL sprain, coming up against one of the best defenses so far this season. Brian Flores is he's found his calling. Head coaching wasn't for him. He's a damn good defensive coordinator, and somehow he's got all those ragtag bits at the Vikings working there. His quarters, blitzing packages he's been doing, Josh Metellus lining up at safety in cover 4 and then dropping as a corner under all this. Love won't know what's going to hit him. Josh Jacobs might get a couple of yards, but I don't know what the receiver's going to do. And then on offense, Darnold not being out for a while with his knee injury will be enough of a stabilizing force to move it against the Packers defense that's still finding its footing with its new defensive coordinator. I can see the Vikings winning, which pains me because they'd be 4-0, which is kind of scary.
I am going for another very narrow path to victory for myself here. Packers win, Vikings cover 3. I see what you're saying about this game, and I can almost buy it, but I think Darnold carrying that injury is going to hurt him because he's. I'm not going to say he's Tom Brady or anything, but he is very good at maneuvering in the pocket away from pressure. Any sort of leg injury is going to hamper that, and it's something that he just does so well. Packers are good at bringing pressure and scheming things up. The defense has looked much better since the scheme change in the offseason. And then I keep underestimating the power of the Packers' offense. At the end of the day, they have one of the best head coaches in the league who has consistently managed to put together a passable offense even with a backup quarterback. So, yes, the Vikings' defense is fantastic. That's why the game's going to be close. But it's a Vikings defense against the Green Bay. This is what decides the game. I decide to go with the home team who have shown no signs in 3 years of being bad on offense, apart from Aaron Rodgers' last season, and even then they got hot for a time. It's a bit of a pick'em for me, to be honest, which is why I think the Vikings will cover 3.
Yeah.
Next up in the 1 o'clock slate, Jags at Texans. Texans humbled last week. Jags humbled every week. 6-point favourites, the Texans. What do you think?
Texans might bounce back. Don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but don't think Trevor Lawrence has yet won at NRG Stadium since he's been drafted.
I don't know the stat. I'm not going to go and check. Wouldn't surprise me. Houston are going to easily cover this. At the end of the day, they got humbled last week. It's just going to give them fuel to bounce back. The Jags are done already this season. Like, dead, buried, don't worry about it. You're out of here. And Doug Peterson has got to win somewhere to keep his job because his neck is on the line right now. And I don't know whether Lawrence's starting role will be up there with him because although they've signed him to a massive contract and they can't get rid, he doesn't look good. Just doesn't look good. I still believe in him as a quarterback long term, but something is badly wrong in Jacksonville. Next up, still 1 o'clock slate, Pittsburgh at Indianapolis. Pittsburgh favoured by 2. Pittsburgh obviously had a fantastic start to the season. Indy not so much. What do you think?
I think it pains both of us as Anthony Richardson fans, but I don't think it's going to be a good game for him again. Like, Jonathan Taylor might be able to get a few, but TJ Watt, man, he's going to take over against AR. It's not. This is basically AR's rookie season. He's going to be having the experience that Caleb's having right now, that Drake May's likely going to have after New England's bye, where he's going to have to work through the stuff and work what works for him in the league. And hopefully AR doesn't do that until after we've played him. But yeah, Steelers, their defense is just going to stifle the Colts. And then the Colts defense came alive a bit last week. Latu got his first sack in the league, I think. But Justin Fields is going to be 4-0.
Yeah, Steelers win and cover. They are the better team. There is nothing more that needs to be said. I don't care that Indy are at home. Pittsburgh are great on both sides of the ball. Or I say great. They're great on defense and they're doing more than enough on offense, and that's what really matters. Still on the 1 o'clock slate, 2 more games to go. Denver Broncos at the New York Jets. The Jets are favoured by 8 points at home. What do you think?
Reese Hall got there. Plain and simple.
Fair. Yeah, I have the Jets to win and cover. I don't think much more needs to be said about that one, to be honest. Broncos are not a good team. They're a bit frisky, but the Jets are a good all-round team, and Rodgers is starting to warm up. He's thawing out eventually. Finally, in this 1 o'clock slate, the early slate, the Philadelphia Eagles at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Eagles are favoured by 1. What do you think?
Okay, it's going to be close, but do I say hopefully? Yeah, I say hopefully because I'm biased because I fancy. the Eagles don't make the mistake that we did against Tampa and go away from the run game. You've got one of the best backs in the league. Use him. Like, Hurts is not having a good start to the season. Get the pressure off him. Give Barkley the ball. And then when as the same with us, when they start drawing in, then use Dallas Goedert, because AJ Brown's been ruled out today. Devonta Smith's got a concussion. So you're having to elevate John Ross from the practice squad. So just run the damn ball. Saquon Barkley, 50 carries for 200 yards and 5 touchdowns. I'll be very happy.
I got Tampa winning straight up. I don't think either side are going to relish this matchup, personally. But I think that Baker will be able to do to Philly what Baker has done often this season so far and just pick teams apart slowly but surely. Right, into the later window, we've got the Commanders at the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals favoured by 3.5 at home. What do you think?
Jalen Daniels continue his case to potentially be the offensive rookie of the year. We saw what we did to them last week. And if Jared Goff can have those kind of wheels against them, what's Jalen Daniels going to do? He's finally hooking up with Terry McLaurin. He's finally working out how to throw to him. Questing bit as a passer. And that defense under Dan Quinn is doing enough. Kyler will probably still have a few. Marvin Harrison Jr. probably have a decent day, but Commanders win.
It's a fascinating game. It's maybe one of my favourites to actually watch on this slate. I have the Cardinals winning, but the Commanders covering 3.5, and I will be smashing the over on this game because I feel like this is two good in inverted commas, offensive teams against two relatively poor defensive teams. So I just think the scoring is going to be off the chart. I wouldn't be surprised to see this be 65, 70 point game. Let's see what happens. But I can see both quarterbacks kind of going on the ground for some really good numbers. Anyway, next one on this slate, the Patriots at the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers banged up and not playing well, as we know. The Patriots maybe not one of the best teams in the league, but being a little bit frisky perhaps. 10.5 points is the spread in favour of the San Francisco 49ers. What do you think?
The hell? I know Debo might be back. Ayuk will hopefully finally remember that he's a receiver.
As opposed to having a strop in practice.
Yeah. Just because he's been told he's bearing the wrong thing. I really don't know how to feel about this game. Like, if Juwan Jennings goes off again, I'll be laughing. But 49ers win, but the Patriots cover. Like, there's no way San Francisco's winning by 10.
My hesitation with this is, although I don't think it's a good performance by San Francisco, I can still see them winning by this margin because although the 49ers have been disappointing on defense, there's more to come there. I don't see where the Patriots' points are coming from. So even in a low-scoring game, I can see the 49ers winning by this sort of scoreline, even if it's something like 20-7 or something like that. I think that's a very makeable scoreline for the 49ers. So yeah, 49ers win and cover. Into the 4:25 games, you've got the Chiefs at the Chargers. Chiefs favoured by 6.5 on the road. What do you think?
Well, Herbert's supposedly going to be playing without limitations, which should be good, hopefully. But the Chiefs, despite not playing the best, with them experience on defense, we've all heard with Spagnuolo do, and with Travis Kelce being triple covered to hell, they still found a way to win. So long as Kelce gets a few more yards, Xavier Worthy keeps going to getting 2 targets a game to piss off, and Chiefs win.
I got Chiefs win, but Chargers cover 6.5. They're just playing much better than anyone expected. The Chargers, I believe in them as a team a bit. Not like people used to believe in them, like, oh, they'll make the playoffs, and they never blooming do. But they're not going to be one of the worst teams in the league this year, and they're going to keep this one close. I mean, the Chiefs don't look like a good team right now. So,
yeah. I mean, the bad news for the new partial owner here is he does own one of the worst teams in the league in a different sport.
Yeah, the worst. The last one on the 425 slate is the Cleveland Browns at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Browns are favoured by 2.5 on the road. What do you think?
Please, I don't like you that much, Las Vegas Raiders, but please, you have one job this week. One job. Please do it. Max Crosby, I know you're doubtful, but you were doubtful for a game last year against the Chiefs, and you still played, and you had a really good game.
Thought he was confirmed out.
I've seen doubtful.
Okay.
If he's been ruled out, then I don't know who's going to edge rush for them because they've got no one else. Like everyone else is on IR. Please, Raiders, you have one job. I know it will upset some of our people in our Discord, but please don't let Deshaun Watson win.
Yeah, I mean, this is the battle of teams that have no one to play for them because everyone's injured. With that said, I go for the home team then. 2.5 points is being given, but I'm going to take them straight up. I think, yeah. Right, Sunday Night Football is Bills at Ravens. Ravens 2.5 point favourites at home. What do you think?
I honestly don't know. I really don't know. Like, again, I'm going to have to use your logic just and say I'll take the home team. But again, if the Bills win it, I wouldn't be surprised. Keon finally caught a touchdown last week, so continue that on. But it's going to maybe come down to the Bills' run defense. Can they contain Lamar, stop Lamar as much as possible? Can they stop Derrick Henry? I don't know. So, yeah, give me the Ravens and the Ravens covering.
The Bills have gone through an off-season where everyone's gone, they've got worse. They've lost lots of people. And they've undergone basically a massive, massive addition through subtraction. The Bills look like a better team than they did last season. And considering who they've lost and where they've lost players, that is a massive, massive feat. Josh Allen is probably the best quarterback in the NFL in terms of how they played through the first 3 games, for me. Even as president of the fan club, I wasn't saying that about him earlier on this season after the way he ended last season. I think it's been fantastic. I think the Ravens have been underwhelming. They lost to the Raiders this season, which is just inexcusable. And yeah, they obliterated someone last week, I think. I can't remember who the Ravens beat, but... Dallas, yes, thank you. But that was an NFC team, so of course they were going to win that game. Yeah, give me the Bills to win straight up. And then Monday Night Football, slightly earlier game than ours. Tennessee Titans at the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are favoured by 1.5 at home. What do you think?
Give me the home team, but it's just going to be so bad. This is going to be Titans Bears from week 1 all over again. Just give me another great Will Levis screenshot to add to my collection. That's all I want now.
I'm going to apologise to Grandizer now. This is a game they're going to show to prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. It's going to be that bad. Titans win and cover, but not and cover, just win straight up because they're being given points. It's going to be a terrible game of not much offense. Smash the under. If it gets to 30 points, I'll be surprised. The only question is, can the Titans hang with the rushing offense of the Miami Dolphins? If the Dolphins run over the Titans, great. We know that Snoop Huntley's starting for the Dolphins. That's probably going to help them a lot. But I still think the Titans, as the more established unit, can do better. And the thing about Will Levis is he's probably had about 1.5 halves of football this season where he's looked really good. He's just had 1.5 halves of football this season where he's looked worse than he looked good in the 1.5 halves he had. And unfortunately, he hasn't put together a complete game of football where he can actually win a game. That good half has come with the much worse half straight after it, generally speaking. So can he avoid the mistakes? Because if he does, there's enough there where he can win a game, but I don't know. Anyway, Seahawks Lions is the last game of the week. We have already given you the points, so it's a 3.5 point spread. You know that we are taking the Lions to win and cover that. Ash, we've had one question since we have been on the air. which is from Brian Shook. He says, what, if any, early season trends from the Lions concern you the most? Seemingly getting more penalised this year, the offense's red zone inconsistency, or something else? So, what has you concerned about the Detroit Lions so far this season?
Penalties, especially on offense. So I think we said it in the review for the Cardinals game. We can't keep having these holding calls, these false starts to turn a 2nd and 6 after a good run into 2nd and 13. Puts us behind the chains, forces Goff to have to throw the ball. Teams know that, and it results in 3 and outs, interceptions. Like red zone inconsistency, that's just us getting away from the run game and trying to be a bit too fancy there. We'll get out that, but the penalties, that's on the players. Like the coaches can only do so much. They can't really, physically go and stop Graham Glasgow flinching on just before the snap and getting a full start penalty. The only penalty that I accept for the past week is obviously Sam Laporta just leaning on the snap just to stop Goff getting annihilated. That's the only penalty I'll accept.
I'll just say this, nothing concerns me on the defense, which is a very, very refreshing state of affairs. The defensive line is fantastic. The linebackers look great. And the DBs, I would say, will work it out, but are trending very much in the right direction. So no concerns there. On offense, yes, the penalties are not great. It doesn't concern me massively. Part of me thinks it's kind of teething issues, it being the start of the season. The red zone stuff shouldn't be happening. That is a concern for sure. I don't think anything else concerns me. So, in the red zone, we were quite efficient last year, if I remember correctly. I can have a look at the stats, but I'm pretty sure we were a good team in the red zone last season. Which makes it all the more worrying that we've kind of regressed in this way. Let me check. Last year, we were 3rd in the red zone. In terms of converting red zone trips to touchdowns, we were 41 of 64. So we only failed 36% of the time to score a touchdown. And we seem to be going blooming 0% sometimes, which is just not good enough. And that would be fine if we were scoring deep touchdowns, but we're not really doing that either. So how do we fix this? Well, stop going east-west in the red zone would be a good way to start that. If you are going to go east-west, it has to be as a change-up and not the thing you are consistently doing, especially against speedy defenses. But never mind the speedy defenses. Going sideways gives teams more time to react to what you're doing because you're not going forwards. So power, duo, gap stuff in the run game, counters, yes, you said that before, and I totally agree with that. If you want to do stuff like that, run slants, run fades, stuff that kind of takes everyone else out of the play apart from the 2 that are actually running that route. Don't run the screens with the frequency that you are. I don't think you should take it entirely out of the game because sometimes it does work, and when it does, you score touchdowns. But it has to be a surprise. It's not a surprise the way the Lions are playing it right now.
Red zone stuff, and this is going to be a throwback, it's the 3rd and long draw plays from the first regime.
Yeah. But the thing is, we do 3rd and long draws, and they work really, really well. So it's the worst of the 3rd and long draws that in the previous regime. It was so, so bad. I think basically what's happened is we leaned on Laporta, and we don't have an X. And Laporta hasn't been there because he's been injured, and they've limited him. They haven't trusted Brock Wright to do it. And they threw Amon-Ra the pivot to score a touchdown last week. But it's the first time, really, that we've kind of targeted Amon-Ra in the red zone that I can remember. We've not trusted Amon-Ra in the red zone. We don't trust JMO, particularly, in the red zone, despite the fact that as a route-running technician, he's gotten a lot better in this off-season, and I think he actually could do some of that stuff. So trust our receivers that are actually on the field to do it no matter who's on the field, whether that's Tim Patrick, Allen Robinson, or the aforementioned players. I think Khalif could do a job there as well. You've got to beat your guy as opposed to doing a contested thing, but give him a chance. I think the other thing that actually concerns me is the one time that we did throw to JMO, it was 2nd and goal from the 5, and he ran a from like a kind of near the formation, a 5 and out into double coverage, and it was a predetermined read by Goff into double coverage. It was a bad throw, it was a bad read. That's not the sort of play that I think we should be running with JMO necessarily. I think shallow crosses, I think bench plays where he's running a bit deeper in the end zone could be good, but a speed out just isn't really what I want to be doing with him there. It doesn't really fit with me what I want to do with him. So I don't know what it is, though, because the thing is, Johnson hasn't been a liability in the rest of the field. And he has shown enough invention where I'm not doubting his ability as a play caller. It's just he seemed to have gone to shit in the red zone, which is really important. So I think he should be able to sort it out. I'm not worrying too much, but man, sucks a bit.
It really does. And like to add another idea in, I know you mentioned the Amara play that he scored on last week. What was Jameer Gibbs doing? Texas were out the backs through, and he was fucking open. Admittedly, that's partly because everyone suddenly focused on Amara when he did the return. That's a great route because you're getting him matched up one-on-one against the linebacker. And especially this week, if Jerome Baker's out, 95% of the time, I'm probably taking Jar.
All right, we are going to call it a show there. We are going to be back on Monday night calling the game as we always do, I believe, Ash. You're on, aren't you?
Yeah.
All right, so join us for the alternative play-by-play. If you too get sick of the actual commentary, maybe you can sync us up to the live game. Some people do. Apparently it's fun, or more fun than listening to the live broadcast. Of course, it is Monday Night Football. Joe Buck has revived his career, I think, as a commentator in Monday Night Football, because I really think he's elevated his game from what he was previously to what he is now. I think it's completely different. But anyway, never mind. College football week 4 in review is going to be coming next week. And then the Monday Night Football review, I think, is going to be coming on Tuesday night. And then when it comes to the bye week, we're going to be taking a week off ourselves, or a show off. So there won't be any Thursday show next week. It will be then that we have a Monday show, which would have been in the review area, looking back at the first quarter of the season so far. So all of the stuff that we've just been talking about, we're going to flesh out a little bit, talk about a little bit more with the guys. But anyway, you can find us on Royal Lines UK on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And the group for Worldwide fans on Facebook is Detroit Lions Fans UK, one private wise. Ash's article previewing this game will be live tomorrow, hopefully, God willing, on ROTLUK.com. Please subscribe and rate us 5 stars on your podcast provider. Many thanks to everyone on the live chat. Many thanks to all of you on the audio show for listening. Thanks, Ash, for doing this with me. Enjoy the rest of College Football Saturday, guys. We'll see you on Monday. Enjoy the Sunday slate as well. But now, let's go Lions One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.